Our next speaker is Dr. Daniel Solano. Dr. Solano is a board-certified ophthalmologist. He's certified by American Osteopathic Colleges of Ophthalmology and Otolaryngology. He specializes in minimally invasive cataract surgery, glaucoma laser surgery, and eyelid reconstruction. He earned his doctorate in osteopathic medicine at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He completed his internship and residency at Doctors Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. He is a South Florida native. He's fluent in Spanish. He enjoys being outdoors with his wife and children. He speaks so lovingly about his family. He enjoys volleyball, mountain biking, flying radio-controlled airplanes. I've seen those pictures of him doing it with his family, and water sports. He contributes regularly to local newspapers and magazines to educate the public about eye disorders and preventing eye problems. He has written some of the very, very good, easy to read articles. Those by themselves are very good examples. I have read them. And he's been the ophthalmology consultant for Tampa Bay Rays Major League Baseball team since 2021. So here's Dr. Solano for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everybody. All right. So first off, it's great to be here. I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't be here today because just 24 hours ago, this is what our harbor looked like. So this is what it usually looks like. And these are bridges that go over. And I have to cross these bridges to go to work, and I come back, I cross them as well. And 24 hours ago, this is what it looked like. And you guys may know that this is where our house is right here, and just right above Cape Coral. And we thought we were going to have it really easy today because we said, oh, the hurricane's offshore. But comes out we had a lot of flooding. And my buddy just called me today, and his office got flooded out. So we went over and started cutting some drywall. And but not all flooding is a bad thing. This is a video of my son. Let me show this real quick. So this is us pulling our kid through a canal here, or sorry, through a puddle, I should say. So not all flooding is such a bad thing. So let's see, go back to my slide here. So this year has been a great learning experience for me. So for the prep activity, for the ethos, and I don't know why it's hard for me to remember pathos and logos. I wanted to really bring to light some connections that I could have with my staff. Last year I talked a little bit about it, but I bought a practice about 2 years ago. So I'm trying to build up a practice, trying to build up a perfect team that I'm going after. And so we constantly have meetings and discussions and huddles, and something that I really wanted to do is really connect with our staff. We had some turnover. You know, it's hard after the doctor I bought it from has owned the practice for over 25 years. And so the staff that have been around for a long time, you know, I wanted to turn over. And so what I did during some of our staff meetings is I wanted to connect with them. And so one way I try to connect with their emotions or through pathos was I shared a story about, let's see here. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this person, but it's an internet story. I don't know how true it is or not, but it must be true. And the story about John F. Kennedy when he visited NASA in 1962, that he saw this man named Joe carrying a broom, and he asked him what he was doing, and Joe replied, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." And Mr. President, and he said Joe understood his work and he was part of a bigger mission, and that he was making a valuable contribution to it. So something that I do in my office is I say, do you guys know what you're doing? Every day you're helping people see the moon, right? We might not get them to the moon, but you're helping them see the moon through vision care. And so this is one way I was trying to connect with my staff in terms of their emotions, and also through their character. Another way that during our staff meetings is what I did is that I took my sons, and I have a picture of it here. I put our logo on their Lego ship, and I gave everybody a Lego man. I said, I want everybody to take one. I have about 12 staff members, and I said, I addressed them as me myself as the captain of the ship, if you will. And I said, everybody give me a reason why they want to be on the ship and what qualifies them to be on the ship and what's their why. And so it was a great experience to hear everybody's connection as to why they wanted to be on the ship of our eye care mission. And so they each said something, and it was emotional. So this is one way that I incorporated some of that prep activity. Another one was death by PowerPoint, which hopefully I'm not boring everybody here with the PowerPoint, but I'm trying to keep it simple. I just want to put a couple pictures up just um, to kind of elaborate some points that I have. And something that I enjoyed in that pre activity was that PowerPoints are there to help us, and they're not the central focus of our mission. We are the presenters, right? We are the ones that are giving that message to them. One of the prep activities as well talked about how to start a speech. And so grab their attention, connect with them, share a factoid, use a story, something that's going to grab their emotions so that they trust us as a presenter. And then for the character strengths, I did we did watch a video. It's called Whale Rider, and my kids finished it. It's an older movie, and it's a slower movie, and so my kids finished it and said, "Dad, that was the worst movie I ever saw." But I somehow tricked them into watching it, and they stayed there the entire time. But I said there was lessons to be learned from that, and so my top strength was honesty, and so that movie, and I'm still working about how to use honesty more in my practice and in my work, but that that movie talks about this young girl who she's in a tribal society, but it's a tribal society that's led by males, and so she uh, as obviously she was born in that lineage, but she's a female, and so she had to do things that kept her honest. And at the end of the movie, it seems like she became the chief, even though she was a female. But it was a good movie. My kids enjoyed it. So another way and another experience I had this week, all right, was that one of the daughters of our surgery center staff members brought her over to me, and she's 19. She doesn't have a driver's license. She's not in school. She's obese. She has IIH, and she can't tolerate Diamox. And so while there's a bigger picture of what needs to happen, but some of the things I had to be honest with her about is, having a life goal to doing something. Obviously, there's other things that we need to help her out, which is lose weight so that she could have these symptoms with headache. But I think that was a moment where I had to use honesty and just tell her, listen, there's a lot that's going on in your life. Um, and so let's help you out with other ways. And so I said, keep a journal, make some goals, and I'm going to check up on you when I see you again. Another quality strength of mine is humor. And I think this is the one that energizes me the most. If I can lighten an interaction that I have with a patient, a lot of patients are so nervous when they have cataract surgery, right? They said, you're going to go inside of my eye. So I tell them, just a simple joke so that they laugh, like I'm nervous too. And so that they at least can connect and just say like, all right, like I can relax. There's a lot of times where patients come to us and we can't really fix their problem, or it's a routine exam, but humor does create a bond with the patient that I enjoy. Another of my quality strengths is spirituality, and reminding our staff member of our mission is one way that I use spirituality, right? We're helping people see things that they haven't seen before, or see better, right? A better quality of life. And I have to remind my staff members that. As for the training program, one of the things that I really enjoyed was the skill wheel matrix. I'll pull it up here. So I enjoyed this. It was a good opportunity for me to, I'm trying to move this bar out of the way. So it was good for me, and I had a meeting with Dr. Singh, and we talked a little bit about this. And it allowed me to see my staff and myself what I could improve on. When I look at the skill wheel matrix, I had a difficult staff member that we've been dealing with. She's been at our practice for about 4 years, and I've owned the practice for 2 years. And so I identified her as a low skill, low will person. And I tried to direct her and I tried to guide her and I tried to excite her. And it couldn't happen over many efforts. So she was my most difficult patient. There were so many red flags that really she shouldn't be in healthcare at all. So at the end of the day, we did let her go. And so it was a difficult situation, but the person that we have to replace her is definitely on the high skill, high will. So it was a difficult opportunity to let somebody go, but at the same time, it opened us up to finding somebody that was really willing to do patient care. I have another staff member who she's our biller. She's been with our office for about 25 years. And so she's in the high skill. She's also in the low will category. As you can imagine, after doing something for 25 years, you become really good at what you do. But on the same time, she's been doing it for 25 years, and so she's not really excited to do billing, right? It's a difficult position. And so I find myself asking her every day, how many patients have you helped see today? And the first time I asked her, she was kind of taken back, like, how am I helping anybody see? I said, listen, your job is so important that if you didn't do your job, none of us could deliver patient care. And so I'm hoping to excite her a little bit more so that she can become a little higher will in terms of her job. She's a great person. You know, she deals with patients great. She just lacks that excitement. And then lastly, my office manager, thankfully, she's been with our practice for 25 years as well. She's a high skill and a high will person. And I'm happy to report that I can delegate a lot of things to her. And I know she'll get it done. And lastly, my last So this is a difficult part for me. I see myself in terms of this hierarchy of being a leader. I see myself bouncing back before. I think obviously I started off as a coworker with them because I was employed by the doctor I bought the practice from, and I'm trying to find that right balance of you want to be friends with. I mean, and I use that term lightly. You want to be cordial with the staff members, but at the same time, you want them to respect you as an employer, right? And so sometimes I feel like I'm just an administrator. Sometimes I feel like I'm a manager. I'm hoping to be a leader. And so through this conference and through interactions that we've had with them, I'm trying to gain that. And obviously it takes time. So Dr. Singh talked a little bit about asking them the two important questions. Do you know what you have to do, and do you have everything to get it done? And so I've been asking them that. And so I ask sincerely, I'm not just repeating words in vain, but I say, do you know what you need to do today? And they usually say, yeah, I know what I need to do. Do you have what it takes? And it's funny that some things come up that I didn't even think of, right? Some of my staff members said, I would like to have a new chair. My chair's falling apart. And so I said, perfect. I went on Amazon and got her a chair, right? And it sounds like it meant a lot to her. You know, she said, oh, you listened to me and you were willing to help me. And so I do see that she was able to be appreciative of that. So hopefully those are little actions that I'm doing and opening up to things that I haven't seen. And overall, I think the most important thing about this conference is just allow me to stop and ponder what am I doing right? What can I improve on? How can I help my office staff? That's been the biggest thing for me. And it's so easy to go through these motions. We're we're great at being physicians. We've learned these things, we've repeated these things, but there's so many other things that we haven't learned in medical school. We haven't learned in residency that we have to teach ourselves. And so that's all I have. I'm gonna go check some emails as soon as I'm done. Of
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
course.
You shared a lot of basic and advanced applications of these chores, and you are an individual practice owner. So, who has a question for him? Because I do have one. Because you shared the application of skill will matrix in both the contexts, in the speaking context and also the employee delegation context, but you kicked it at a level of employee engagement. You know, people are now spending money on employee well-being, employee. You kicked it to that level.
Mhm.
When did you become aware that that's what really started happening?
It wasn't that long ago. It was maybe about a month ago when we started talking about this. And
Hmm.
it was fun to see like where everybody fell in that category, right?
Okay.
the staff member we had a difficulty with, we knew she was an issue, but I couldn't figure out why. I mean, there's many reasons why, but that really helped me say, well, if you want a director, you want a trainer, but just there's lack of that will. So
Very good. So whoever is listening, please notice this is what's really, that's what starts happening. So when your practice wants engagement from employees or physicians or well-being in doctors, this is how it looks like. Making their work life easy and impactful is how it works like. And okay, tell me about the whale rider. What strength did you see in the whale rider?
I I don't know. To be honest, I waited so long, and we watched it last night, and it was a slow movie, and I
Yeah.
can see why my kids said it was bored, but it was different. It's a Polynesian culture, and
Yes.
so a lot of like singing, making noises that they're not used to hearing. But
Mm-hmm.
I texted my wife during the movie, and she kind of looked over at me. She's like, "This is why we're watching this movie because it's your homework." And so I look at her, I'm like, "But you guys are watching it," so
Fantastic.
I snuck it in.
No, this is very, very good. In fact, I think that uh, yours is a kind of a practice where you can even measure some of these things. The engagement you can measure, retention you can measure. So these things start to impact those things directly right away.
Mhm.
So when we say, oh, we need retention in employees and people are lazy, they don't want to learn anything. You showed today what needs to change in the leader.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Just this
So
week, we're trying to hire a new staff member, and just this week we came up with a quiz to kind of just evaluate, gave it to the entire staff that the ones that do the workup and technicians, stuff that they should know. And so it was fun to see them and say, "Oh, I need to learn something." And so it was fun, good experience.
by the way, that's a high compliment in my view when I said that's a doctor in action when you took care of that young woman. And imagine many other people might have just said, that's not my job.
Mhm.
That is such a heartwarming thing you did.
Mhm.
So I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for the
you.
time.
We are rich by having you.
Thank you.
So, well, that was Dr. Solana. Our next speaker is Dr. Megan Cochran. And Dr. Megan Cochran practices ophthalmology in Marion, Ohio. That's a rural community north of Columbus, Ohio. She graduated from Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in neuroscience and Spanish. She received her medical degree from Ohio University and residency training in ophthalmology at Doctors Hospital in Columbus. She's currently the president of Marion Area Physicians and is vice chair of Department of Surgery for Marion General Hospital. She's climbing up. She recently received her MBA from Franklin University. She lives in Delaware, Ohio, with her husband, a 2-year-old daughter, and 2 dogs. She enjoys traveling and spending time with her family and friends. She also has interest in nutrition, wellness, real estate, architecture, and interior design. So here's Dr. Cochran. Welcome.
Thank you. I am going to share my screen.
Ah, there you go. You are here.
All right. Sorry
Yes.
about that. Now it's sharing. Okay. Let me- And so you guys can see just that PowerPoint slide.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So thank you for having me. It sounds like we've alluded to the character analysis a few times already during the conference, but this quote kind of embodies some of that topic. And so the quotes, be more concerned with your character than your reputation because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. And I thought this quote was really empowering because it kind of alludes to you should care about the thing you can control, which is your character, and not care so much about the thing you can't control, which is what other people think. And so character is something that isn't inherent or fixed. And what I learned over the course part of this training is that if you take the time to become aware of your particular character strengths and weaknesses, you can more effectively solve problems and accomplish goals. And so one of the things I'm going to share is a story about how I identified how some of my character strengths helped me turn a frustrating situation into an opportunity. And so we'll start with a story. Once upon a time, many, many months ago, circa 2019, I was a resident physician nearing the end of ophthalmology training. My husband, who is an anesthesiologist, and I were finishing residency at the same time, and we're looking for jobs in the same city. And for a variety of reasons, we chose to start our careers with the same organization that we did our residency in Columbus, and that's Ohio Health. And they internally recruited me to replace a retiring physician who was at one of their regional care sites. So the organization actually only employs 2 ophthalmologists in the whole system. And it was kind of against their will because they acquired the regional care site that already employed the ophthalmologists. But either way, they decided to continue employing ophthalmology. And this was really the best option for us at the time because it was good. Both of us had good job opportunities. It was close to family, friends that we already had made from med school and residency, and we were familiar with the organization. And so that was really positive. But I knew coming into it that this particular opportunity was going to be challenging in a few ways. And one of the examples of that is that the practice was 2 ophthalmologists that were about to retire, and their practice model had been they didn't have any ophthalmic assistants or techs or any staff that were formally trained in ophthalmology, and they just had one medical assistant each, and didn't really offer premium lenses, which is pretty common with comprehensive ophthalmology practices now. And so one of the things I not negotiated per se, but an understanding that I had with the organization, that is, if you want me to come in to this position, then we're going to have to modernize the practice and build it up and create a model that is more consistent with what is common for ophthalmology practices in the area. And so they were really on board with that. Everyone was super receptive, and the staff and the organization was excited about that. So I took the job. And then 7 months later, COVID happened. And despite COVID, the organization upheld a lot of their promises. So they bought a ton of new equipment that the office didn't previously have. We got an IOL master, a fundus camera, topography, things that I thought were important to my practice that that they didn't have before. And they also approved additional positions for medical assistants and allowed me to train the assistants to the level of ophthalmic assistants to just kind of really change the way the whole practice operated to be more efficient. And that was really positive. The other thing that happened during COVID that improved morale was the organization fully supported physicians and staff during COVID. So nobody was laid off, nobody took a pay cut, our staff and everything were secure. So during that time, morale was really high. But then over time, I still was having these monthly meetings where I was getting nowhere with them approving me offering premium lenses, getting things like intravitreal injections. They just couldn't accomplish it. They couldn't accomplish paying me for the premium lenses, even when they finally let me offer them. And so I found myself in a situation where I initially was really hopeful about this job being kind of what I wanted it to be. And now I found it was really limiting. And so my perspective was kind of frustrated, and yeah, I was frustrated and not having the best perspective. And so what I learned in my character assessment, which kind of makes sense for what happened, is that one of my strongest strengths is perspective. And so I realized that this perspective of being frustrated and not feeling like I was going anywhere and that I was kind of a victim of my circumstances was not benefiting me. It was not advantageous. And so I decided to look at things a little bit differently and ask myself, could this be an opportunity? I had already change the practice model to be a lot more efficient so I could see the same amount of patients in a lot less time, meet the demand of the community, which it's somewhat a patient volume situation. So the patient volume is not huge. So I was able to meet the demand of the community in a lot less time and free up time for myself to kind of do things that I hadn't considered before. So that changed my perspective more to a positive one. And so since that time, the perspective shift in over the past few years, I got more involved with the hospital administration. I became the president of our board, our physician board at the hospital, vice chair of surgery. I got an MBA, became a mom. My daughter's going to be 2 next week, so that's exciting. Started a real estate investing business. I really have always loved real estate, and I found out how much I really like design and architecture. I'm building a house and potentially going to be starting a business and related to that. So I think if I hadn't had this opportunity, I probably wouldn't have developed some of those other aspects of my life. So I'm really grateful for that, and learned that I just value having the flexibility in my schedule so I can focus on different things for personal and professional growth. And what was my next slide? Oh, so the next thing is I learned that perspective is one of my strengths, but I wanted to know what is one of my weaknesses. So the character assessment does not give you a list of weaknesses, but it does order your strengths. And so one of my weakest strengths was teamwork, which I was not thrilled about. I was like, huh, that's low on my list. And so I thought that was interesting, but then it kind of made sense when I thought a little bit about it more. I'm naturally a little bit of an introvert. I like to do activities that tend to be more independent. Eye surgery isn't exactly a classic team sport, but the awareness that this may be one of my less strong strengths, as the survey would have you believe, helped me just be aware of it and identify opportunities to strengthen this part of my character. And so taking some time to think about when teamwork is important, I realized it's very important. Even if you don't like team sports, it's important. And so I have teams in my OR. My OR is a team, my clinic's a team, my husband and I are a team in life and co-parenting. And so I think using your strengths that you're identified that are naturally strong, can help kind of, if you use those strengths to kind of prop up the less strong strengths or your weaknesses, that can be really helpful. And I think the first stage of that is awareness and what needs work or could be expanded. And so, let's see, in summary, basically identifying your own character strengths and weaknesses can improve your ability to reach your goals, find new opportunities, and develop your character in ways that align with your values. And I'll just leave you with this quote that I thought was inspiring as it relates to personal and professional growth, which it's never too late to be who you might have been. And that's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In fact, when I was listening to you, you are, already doing things which people do like 10 years out of training, and we started doing them. And this, we all are so overexposed to memes and stuff like that. You said some things which I have never heard before about lemons and orange juice.
Oh, yeah.
That was so funny. In fact, I started wondering about one thing, which is this is also a time like 5 years out of training, people start getting a little bit disillusioned with medicine itself. But going through this, how has that played out?
Going through
This training or this program, or how's that working out for you as far as your relation to medicine itself or practicing medicine?
yeah, I think kind of in the ways I described, I think identifying the character strengths and stuff has helped me, but it's also helped me in ways that are kind of part of my professional career, like when I'm doing meetings and having to work with administration to support our local region. I'm basically advocating for the physicians in our area because we are more or less controlled by an organization that operates in an urban area in central
Yeah.
Columbus, and we're a regional site, and they
Mhm.
they recently changed their administrative model to go from a regional administrative oversight to a service line model. And
Mhm.
service lines, I guess, in my opinion, tend to be better for organizations that funnel everything centrally. But our
Mhm.
organization does not funnel everything centrally. They value keeping care regionally, which is great, but makes service lines challenging because you have people prioritizing your main central locations, and kind of the regional locations get deprioritized. So I think some of the skills in this training has just helped me work with people better in these meetings and identify areas where I can be more effective
Mhm.
as a
In fact,
leader.
you also reinforce that idea that, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, that administrator versus physician mindset,
Mhm.
and how that not just from point of urgency, but on multiple dimensions. So thank you. You made the training better. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about that. Thank you very much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well, that takes us to our last speaker of the day. And our last speaker of the day is Dr. Rizwan Aslam. Dr. Aslam has, besides being a physician, an osteopathic physician, he has a master's in medical education, an MBA and PH, and he's the interim chair and program director of otolaryngology residency and associate professor of neurosurgery and plastic surgery at Tulane University School of Medicine. A graduate of Lake Erie School of Osteopathic Medicine. His residency was in otolaryngology at UPMC Hammett, and fellowship in head and neck oncology and microvascular surgery at University of Cincinnati. His special interests are head and neck cancer, reconstruction, education, and population health. And when he's not working, he likes spending time with his wife and 4 children, playing tennis, pickleball, and golf. So here's Dr. Aslam.
Good evening, and thank you for that introduction, Dr. Singh. First, I want to preface by, yes, I'm in my car. B, I'm not driving. And C, the reason I'm in here is because it is my quiet space, and anybody knows about Friday nights with children, your home there is no quiet space. So I decided to take my my meeting to my car. Um, but just like everybody on this call tonight, I, like you, have experienced some journey over my career, but I, like you, am oftentimes late for a meeting. I, like you, am also overwhelmed at times. I, like you, am also overcommitted. And I, like you, and oftentimes overextended. So over the course of the next 5 to 10 minutes of hearing me talk, and this one I do have some slides prepared, but I'm not able to connect for some reason, and you guys are probably saying probably because your Wi-Fi is not working. But the slides really were just there as a adjunct to my discussion, and the real reason I wanted to participate in this program this year was to see where I was at from last year when I did this program. And first, I would just say that it has made a tremendous amount of difference in my life on many levels. So thank you to Dr. Singh, and thank you to the college for putting this together. But again, like you, I feel each and every one of the previous speakers from where they're coming from from Libby all the way through our last speaker as well. And part of it is with many of the roles and as physicians, many of the other tasks that we pick up when we don't have the ability to say no, because many of us are either we just feel that it's our duty to say yes oftentimes to everything. And I think part of it was the delegating, and I think that was something that I touched base on last year, so I'm not going to get into it. But over the course of the past year, I've learned to delegate better, and that is something that is incredibly important, especially for the younger members in our audience. You are going to volunteer for every opportunity, whether it's on the academic side of things and you need to get onto a committee to promote yourself. And yes, those are things you need to do. You need to get out there, but there will come a time in your career where you will need to say no. And that's very hard, right? Because early on, you don't want to feel like, oh, that person has more important things to do and they're not part of the team, etc. But you will learn. And what you can do is say no, but designate. look, I can't do this, but Dr. Singh is available. Maybe he can assist with this. And you can help promote others in that manner as well. You don't have to do everything. And I think that's a hard lesson that we learn too late in our careers. Along the same vein is, managing my time, right? Saying no, making myself available in other ways, but my time management skills have definitely improved as well, right? Dedicating time, blocking time out for myself has really been an important part of my journey over the past year. Just like everybody else, managing time, it's Friday afternoon and you have 3 meetings or 3 patients left to see. Your text messages are oftentimes, sorry, I'm running late. Can I call you later, please, from the phone response. In a meeting, anything urgent, right? So how many of us have gotten those responses, right? And oftentimes we're the ones sending those same responses out, right? So I think balancing, and what I've done is really, our administrative team is very good about scheduling. Everything goes into Outlook. I know where I'm at. Everybody knows where I'm at. And that cleaning up my work life has really improved my personal life as well. So everything is attached to a calendar invite. And I'm sure Dr. Singh will probably say that there's some potential that can be harmful as well, right? We got to be a little bit flexible, but I think, managing your time, putting calendar invites together, that has really simplified my life in many ways. Emails continue to haunt us all. I think that is something that, even though you're up in the middle of the night checking your emails, check it first thing in the morning when you wake up and you go to your nightstand, getting away from that has been hard. So that is one part of my time management that I have tried to implement 3-2-1. But somehow I still manage to check it more often than.
The conference is still a half-hour long, but I don't need to do anything.
So managing your time, 3-2-1 is important. If you can navigate that and implement that in your life, it's a wonderful tool, but I'm still struggling with that a little bit. And part of me is being honest about the things that have worked and not worked for me. So I still need to refine my skills in email checking. But part of it is also people want responses, so they want a response by noon. And if you don't check your email in the important, in that sweet spot during the day, you may run into some problems. I have adopted the utilization of the smart phrases in the subject. I thought that was a great thing that I learned over the last course. So basically, end of message in the title or the subject. Sorry. No need to answer for you, FYI, input opinion needed, action needed by this time, let's meet by this time, and putting that in the subject and, just putting FYI, don't respond to this email. Not every responding. Thank you so much for letting me know. Cut out the fluff. I brought my whole team on it. So we all communicate in a very simplified fashion, which has really helped us quite a bit. And one other interesting thing that really, I started doing, and part of it is, my in personal life as well, but one breath meditation. I know that this was mentioned earlier, but we got the whole operating room to start doing it. So even in my surgeries, even in the middle of a case, a long case, we just take a deep breath, everybody calm down, relax, and one breath meditation really, really worked. So I thought that was something that was very practical and very useful. And I encourage you, if you don't do that, as awkward as it may seem to initiate that, once it gets going, it's really an impressive tool. And then finally, one other aspect of being overwhelmed and so forth is in meetings, right? You want to respond to everybody. You want to make sure that everybody has a voice at the table. So what I started doing is any meeting, especially with my residents, I start with the interns. It's like I go from the lowest level of the cohort that I'm talking to and work my way up, so that make sure the people that are a little scared and they're worried about psychological safety, et cetera, let them speak first, right? Give them the power to speak in your meetings. I think that's a very practical approach to meetings. But along that same line, areas that I've learned to focus on are the sneaky facilitator tips. If you run meetings or you chair committees, those are wonderful tools. I think, you hear meetings go on and everybody wants to have a voice, but really if you're doing a true committee or running a committee or some other meeting, adhering to Robert's rules, et cetera, I think using sneaky facilitator tips, even in not in those situations, has really benefited me. And it's a respectful way to keep a meeting going. And I really thank Dr. Singh for allowing me the opportunity to use those in our discussions and meetings. And then finally, to kind of tie this all back together, I would say that part of my approach is, when you're giving a talk and when you're doing a lecture, is to use advanced techniques of letting the users know that you're on the same playing field as them. Not the users, sorry, the listeners, that you're on the same playing field as them, right? So when it comes to ethos, I've learned to do a better job of not telling everybody, oh, I have X many this degree, I trained here, there, not in that sense, but making yourself connected to the subject matter, letting them know that you are on the same level and you're going to get them through. And by the end of this journey, or the end of the talk, this is what you're going to learn. So I know that we all probably do that to some extent, but I think that that was a very practical and something that I'd never used before. So I'm not going to go through all phases of lecturing, but in an interest of time, I know I'm the last speaker as well, but I just wanted to say that as a recap of my year. It's been a tremendous journey. I think everybody should take at least 3 to 5 things from this course, and try to implement them in your life over the next year. I promise you'll see a change. So I know it's getting late, and I know somebody already had somebody chime on to Zoom. So we'll cut it there, Dr. Singh, if that's okay.
No. This is very good, very nice. In fact, if you can quickly, in a minute, tell a story of delegation, because delegation tends to be very sore situation for most doctors. And we have heard other people delegate, but you said over the year you have been practicing it.
Yeah. So this is like, and these may seem like, very small things in the grand scheme of things, but we transitioned an entire hospital from point A to point B. And in that process, you can imagine we went to a hospital where they weren't doing a lot of otolaryngology cases and head and neck cases. So we had to essentially start from the bottom up. So that meant every member of our team picking up and doing tasks that, really we've never done before. So delegating to senior level people in our department, asking people to come to the table with ideas. And I think what you have to do is invite everybody and welcome everybody with their ideas to get them engaged. And I think delegating, like you said, is a tactful practice that you have to know how to. You can't just tell people what to do and expect a deadline. You can, and that's management. But I think there's a good way to be an effective manager versus, I think I consider myself in most of my roles a leader, but there's many times when we are managers as well. And I think that, delegating to senior level people and people that you may not be comfortable with is the biggest challenge. But we had a couple of situations where we had some operative challenges that we had to get through. And to delegate people, even if they're the ones who are presenting the problem or the issue, I oftentimes like to delegate that task back to them. Like, well, what is the solution from your perspective? Why don't you come back to us at next month's meeting with some solutions for this problem? And oftentimes it's the people that are complaining the most about something or have the biggest problems. If you let them drive it, then it opens their eyes to how hard indeed it is to make sometimes change on simple things even, right? Like, oh, this stinks. The OR doesn't do this, this, and this. All right, you go ahead. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to charge you. You're going to help us find a solution to this problem. And oftentimes I find that it gives them perspective on how much work and effort you're actually putting into something, because they want you to do it. Why don't you aren't doing it? You're not doing this.
Yes.
Okay, good. You know what? I'm going to help you, but why don't you give me some solutions and ideas?
Yeah.
So I think it's hard. And sometimes people, that's not my job. I don't need to do that or this, so I think it's a tough balance. And a lot of times, many of us, I think some of the other speakers we're probably employed physicians, we aren't in charge of staffing. So I think part of the problem is delegating to people that are not directly employed by your same.
No, this is fantastic. What you have said is we are not undermining manager or an administrator, but you have to know what you're doing at a given time. And then it ends up being better rather than, oh, I'm a leader or I'm a manager. No, you can do anything good, but you have to know what you're doing in the given moment. You're not going to be leader 100% either. A good manager makes the work life so much better. And delegation is a strong managerial skill. And that is so important, what you said.
Yeah. I always ask the resident applicants too, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And it's interesting sometimes the responses you'll get, So, there's a good HBR article on that as well. I'll send it to you.
We have students here, so remember if you're gonna interview with Dr. Aslam, he's gonna ask you that question.
That was a freebie, a layup, as they say. So, you know,
be prepared to answer that. Anybody
Gonna
else
say, I
has a
would
question for him? Oh, Chad has a
say
question. Go
not
for
so
it.
much a question, but just something that I wanted to say thank you for mentioning it. You mentioned that you for any meetings you give the interns the power. I definitely appreciate you being cognizant and intentional with that. Um, I also think that that's going to be something that drives a lot of change in the coming generations. So I'm glad that you're being intentional with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. So we will wrap up today's talk. And by the way, Dr. Aslam mentioned one breath meditation. I'm going to teach you that tomorrow, the usefulness of it. Otherwise, it's just taking a breath. It's not that hard, but we need to breathe to live. But today, let's wrap up with compassion meditation. This is a meditation which evidence shows brings a lot of subjective well-being. Mindfulness brings a lot of psychological well-being, but subjective, just plain happiness and relaxation. Because let's say you have done a meeting like this today, you came to the conference, you got so much new material. You had people talking about how they've applied all this material, and it's all kind of like creating fuzziness. It's like, how am I even going to apply any of this? The first thing is you have to be compassionate toward yourselves before you can even think of being compassionate or having empathy with anybody else. So we're going to wrap up today with a brief meditation on compassion, and you will have both these recordings, so you don't have to memorize any of this thing. And remember, tomorrow the Mandarin, you need Mandarin or Clementine, that's easy to peel. We will do luxuriating, savoring meditation tomorrow morning. But right now, let's do the compassion meditation. We're going to do a visualization meditation so you can be compassionate toward yourself. I invite you to be in a comfortable position. So don't do this if you need to be alert, like if you're driving. Rest your hands comfortably and close your eyes. Now bring your attention to the sensations of your in-breath and your out-breath. Inhale and exhale. And if at any point it becomes too difficult, or if you notice difficult emotions arise, please feel free to return to the awareness of your breath. Our breath is always with us, each moment of our lives, and it's a safe place to return to. Now imagine yourself when you were a newborn, new to this world. How small and defenseless you were. This baby you is perfect with infinite potential. Please take a moment to send yourself good wishes full of kindness and love. Say to this baby, may I be happy. May I be full of love. May I experience peace. May I be free from suffering. May I live life to the fullest extent. Take a moment now to notice how this feels in your mind and body. If any resistance or judgment arise, please notice these reactions
And come back to this ever-present sensation of your breath. Now I invite you to call to mind the image of yourself as a 16-year-old. See what you love about yourself when you're 16. Please take a moment to send this version of yourself wholesome good wishes, full of kindness and love. Tell your 16-year-old self, may I be happy. May I be full of love. May I experience peace. May I be free from suffering. May I live life to the fullest extent. Take a moment now to notice how this feels in your mind and body. Notice the sensation of your in-breath and your out-breath. Take a moment to place one hand on your stomach. What sensations do you notice? Can you feel simultaneously the rise and fall of your chest and stomach? Now I invite you to think how you are now, today, at this very moment. See what you love about yourself now. And take a moment to send this version of yourself wholesome good wishes, full of kindness and love. Tell yourself, may I be happy. May I be full of love. May I experience peace. May I be free from suffering. May I live life to the fullest extent. Take a moment now to notice how this feels in your mind and body. Notice the sensation of your in-breath and out-breath. Now let's imagine how you will be in 10 years from now. What will you love about yourself 10 years from now? Please take a moment to send this version of yourself wholesome good wishes, full of kindness and love. May I be happy. May I be full of love. May I experience peace. May I be free from suffering. May I live life to the fullest extent. Take a moment now to notice how this feels in your mind and body. And notice the sensation of your in-breath and out-breath. Now gently open your eyes. Now, whenever you feel overwhelmed and you are in real need for compassion, you can sit and close your eyes and rest your hands comfortably and send yourself these wishes of well-being and happiness ever and forever. That's it. So this brings our day one to conclusion. It has been a privilege to be here. Thank you, Dr. Graining. She said, excellent first night. Good night, and good night, you all. Yes, indeed. Have a good night. We have 10 hours. Please eat well, sleep well, rest. Don't get overwhelmed. All these things. As you heard, 6 people, they applied so many different ways. And it's like Dr. Aslam said, try 3 to 5 things at a time. Try 1 at a time. See how that goes. So, and then today has been a great day of learning for me. And I already shared, all this learning adds to what makes a meeting like this, a conference like this, even better. So it's like saying these people took the risk. They went on an adventure and made life better for all of us by doing this. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the morning. Bring your mandarins and clementines.